Hello and welcome back to K&F Design. If you're new here, my name is Katie. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below so we can keep crafting together. Today I have a fun shaker card for you. This one is more for a Mother's Day card, but you can use this same technique to make any type of shaker card you want. I actually have the design down below that you can do. And I'll be doing this one here where the shaker part is kind of inside that front lip here, so you can't see it. But I also have another version in my design, which you can find down below. And you can just make like an actual shaker, and this time for the word mom, and either glue that shaker directly onto the front of your card, or you could tape it so they could also take it off. You can also use that maybe as a cake topper or anywhere you might want to use the shaker part. So I've done videos on how to make a shaker, so I will link one of those down below. The design also has the instructions kind of in it on what each layer does. So I'm not going to go through that one with you. Today I'm just going to do this one here. And so with that, make sure to go down, grab my file, and then let's get crafting. If you see this screen, don't worry about it, just hit continue. I already converted the text, so it should all come out fine. And then hit upload. So once you upload your design, this is what it will look like. I did two different designs. One is for a shaker card, and then the other one is just for the shaker if you just want to turn mom into a shaker. And then you can just glue or tape that directly to your card front, and so it'll pop out a little bit. I'm not going to show you this method just because I've shown you how to make shaker cards already. So it's the same concept, and I have all the writing here for you. If you're attaching it to the card, you don't necessarily have to have this back layer here, but you could if you want to make it different. So I'm going to focus on this version here, but first we need to ungroup everything so we can delete what we don't want. It'll take it a minute since there's a lot here. Alright, so I am going to select and delete all of this because we're not doing the shaker. Now, Cricut likes to change the sizes of things, so I made a 7 by 10 card, and as you can see, the front of my card should be 7 by 5.3 inches, and it is not. So I'm just going to go up here, go 7, enter, and then 5.03, which it actually already is. It did it. You just have to change the 1. So I'm going to go through and just do that, sizing everything to what it should be for my 5 by 7 card. Okay, so I went ahead and resized all my pieces, and then I just deleted that extra text because I know what they mean. So the first thing we need to do is, this is the main section of the card, and with Inkscape I'm not able to insert the forward line, so just go to shapes and align here. Now our card is 7 inches, so we need to change our line to 7. We're actually just going to rotate our line here to 90 degrees. And then I'm going to select both the card and the line. You can either click them over here or hold down your shift. And then go to arrange, align, and center. And now I want to attach those so when I go to make it, it'll put that line on my card. So this is the main section of the card, and then I'm going to be putting this over the card. And see how it lines up there. And then this piece here will go over this. I'm just moving it to the front so you can see what it looks like. So that's just kind of a cool decorative piece that'll go over top. You don't need that piece. This is going to go up here. And same with that one. I'm actually going to cut the best ever and my mom out of a shiny gold iron-on vinyl. Just because these are kind of thin, the iron-on vinyl will be easier to use for that thin material. You could use cardstock as well, but just for my project, that's what I'm going to do. This here is our acetate layer, and it'll go right behind the word mom. You could cut this out by hand. You could make it the same size of this if you wanted to. I just didn't need that much acetate. It just needs to cover the mom. So I just made a small little rectangle to do that. Now this layer here will also go inside here. You can kind of see that line on where it'll end. This is my spacer. I'm actually going to cut a piece of foam and stick it in there. If you didn't want to do that, you could take your tape, like a double-sided foam tape, and just outline the word mom with the tape, making sure there's no gap. And then I would also put a little bit up here at the top around the edges. That way it's all flat. And then the mom will go right on the card, so you won't see any of that back. So really all you needed to do was make that line. Everything else should be good to go, but you can use which pieces you would like. And when you're ready, just hit make it. So I went ahead and cut out all the pieces and weeded out iron-on here. If you do any HTV iron-on vinyl, you want to make sure you do that first because it can melt your foam or your acetate. The acetate I just cut by hand out of scrap, that's why it's not perfect. You can also mark with a pen to let you know where to cut with your scissors, because there is the protective layer. When you peel it off, it'll come off. Oh, it's on the other side. So see, it'll just come right off when I peel that off. And again, this is a little rough shape acetate just because I was using the scrap, but it'll work just fine. So I just set it down and marked around the edge to make sure I covered the cutout. Had enough to cover the cutout. My foam here I used, it has this, it's sticky on the back side. If you just peel that off, it'll be sticky. So I laid it flat like that on my cutting mat. I used green cutting mat. The pink one's also really good, but mine was dirty at the time. And I like to use the rotary blade, which is only capable in the Maker model, so the Maker and the Maker 3, to cut. And I use the flannel setting to cut this foam. But if you don't have a Maker, you can also use the fine point blade that comes with the machine. I just like the way the rotary blade cuts it, so if you have that option, I recommend it. If not, the fine point blade would work fine as well, especially since this is going to be hidden under all the layers. So we have our first layer, which is the card, and I want to bent it. We'll have a foam on here. I made it smaller just because it didn't need to go all the way, and then that way we can kind of see all the ends. And then a little dot will go in the middle. I'm not lining it up perfect. We'll put all the little shaker pieces, which I have a couple. I thought about these like clay flowers. I have this fun flower glitter that's kind of some nice blues and pinks. So I think I might use this one. I thought the flowers might take away a little too much going on. I also thought about these hurt clay pieces, but there was a lot of pink and not a lot of pink in my design. And then I also have sequins, but these seemed a little big, so I think I'm gonna go with my glitter here. And I think this one might have been from Hobby Lobby. So then you'd put those inside, you do your acetate layer, and then our cover will go right on top. And then when you open it, it'll kind of be like that. So if you do any iron-on, I would suggest doing that first, placing it, heating it up, and ironing it down, because your iron will melt your acetate as well as any foam. So make sure you do this first. The iron-on's not going to be an issue here or down here because it's on a card and it'll be fine. The outline here for the mom is going to be just a little tricky because right now, as you can see, the O is not touching anything to be ironed onto. And then this outline piece, it actually overlaps a little bit, and so it'll kind of come through and it just barely touches the card. So I actually recommend doing either a removable vinyl or permanent vinyl or cardstock for this portion, but I really wanted it to match, so it'll still work. You just gotta be a little extra careful and make sure it's covering a little bit as you go. I might do that in sections. And then also make sure that it doesn't get ironed onto the piece down below. For the O, I might go ahead and place it as well. Even though there's some foam on it, it's small enough it might be okay. So I'll just iron that little piece, even though the foam's there. I just glued my circle again to the foam so I wouldn't lose it. So it just has a dot of glue, that's why it's the cardstock sticking to the foam. So I'm going to do this in the Ever first, and then I'll work on the mom section. I'm just going to be using my home iron and an old towel to set it on. So if you do this with a different type of vinyl that's not iron-on, still do the iron-on pieces first. So I just went over it about 10 seconds, moving it so my heat did not get too hot on the card and burn the card itself. So now that we have a glitter on, it's time to layer it. So I'm going to actually flip it upside down, and we're going to place acetate first. But first I'm going to put some double-sided tape down. Don't forget to remove your liners on your acetate. So next is going to be a foam layer, and I'm going to do my sticky side down just so it'll have a better seal. If you don't have the sticky version, you just have regular, you can apply the double-sided tape, something like that instead. For this I like the tape better than glue, just because sometimes the glue can warp the cardstock. So this is a barrier to the glitter. If you did not use this, then you could use some of this foam tape. You can even double it up if you want it a little extra thicker, depending how thick your glitter is going to be. And you could just place it all the way around. And then just make sure you do a little bit at the top too, so it's a little bit more uniform and even the surface here. So now that that's down, we can add a glitter. And you just want to make sure that your glitter is not taller than this barrier that you use, whatever you decide to use for it. If it is, you can just cut like another one and double it. Now the last step is to put our card on top, so I'm just going to use my double-sided tape to do that as well. Okay, so I have all my tape down. I almost forgot my center O piece, so just don't forget to do that. Place that first. And then I will just line this up and place the top. Nice thing about this also is you can shake it right away. So there we go. And then you just open it up, write your sentiment inside. Here is a Mother's Day card. I like how it turned out, and it shakes well, and it's kind of hidden. You can't tell how we got it to shake, but it's really pretty. Again, you could use it as the Mother's Day card, or you could do it for other cards as well. If you have other, maybe like a happy birthday or something, you could turn that into a shaker just doing the same steps. I hope you had fun crafting with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.